In today's video, I am going to be breaking down different Kansas Jayhawks baseline inbounds plays that work extremely well against zone defenses, specifically the 2-3 zone. These plays can really help a lot of high school teams as well, especially on the more advanced side. I hope that this video helps you. Let's get down, let's check these out. If you want a really good basketball defense, make sure to go check out my unbeatable basketball zone defense down in the description below. Okay, so as we see, we have three baseline defenders in the 2-3 zone, and these players are essentially going to be guarding these areas. There really isn't all that much being guarded on this side, and we're really going to be able to see that happen. Now, when we have this play start, we're going to have the player who starts in the middle of the key. He's going to be cutting out towards that corner. This player is going to be then at that time cutting out towards that side of the post. We are now going to have that second player who is going to be setting a screen for that middle defender. And the player who starts up here is going to be cutting behind these two defenders, so that now when he cuts behind these two defenders, he should be wide open because this player is getting screened and this player is getting screened, so that he should have essentially an open lob. Now, of course, you could dunk that if you have a player who has the ability, or you can land and of course go up for that layup. Now I'm going to tell you right now that this is generally where the defense is going to be. We're going to have player 5 who is essentially watching the paint. Nobody wants anything going on in there. Player 4 is going to be watching this far side, and of course players 1 and 2 are going to be looking for 3-point shots, and player 3 is going to be looking for the corner. And we can really use this to our advantage because we'll have player 2, he's going to move out towards that side, and player 4 is going to go in, set a screen on 4 red. 1 is going to set a screen on, of course, 5 red. And then player 5, I would have this as your center or your biggest player. He's going to be getting a lob anyways. And at this time, we would have him cut down behind player 1. We do not want him to go in front. Now, he could technically go in front if he's fast enough, but if he goes behind, usually this player is going to be looking in that direction anyways. So because of that, he can then fit behind. He could even start sneaking over towards this side while these three players are moving, so that player 5 could then have that open lane for that lob. Now this is actually a very similar formation, however, we're going to have a few differences, and this time we're going to have a player in the middle of the key. The player who is going to be shooting is going to be at the point. This would be probably your best shooter in this case. And then we're going to have usually your center here and your forward here. That's generally where you would want to have these set up because you want the big bodies to set the screen. So what's going to happen is these two players are going to cross and set screens on these two players in the 2-3 zone. This works against the 3-2 zone as well. You're then going to have that point player. He's going to be cutting down towards that open area where those two screens are being set on the zone. At this time, he should be wide open for the 3-point shot, and that's what we see here. However, the secondary screen, as we see here, this player moves from this screen to this screen, is for this player as a backup option to get that lob out to them. If, for example, he is not open, that would be a lob over to this player as a safety. I would even have this screener here cut down after the screen if neither of these two players are open. So for example, if he was unable to set that screen here, I would still have him cut down at least towards this block or that block. So here we have our players set up. Again, our biggest players will be here, our best shooter will be here, and what we'll have is, again, those players will cross, set those screens. When they set those screens, player 1 is going to then be popping out towards this wing, and player 2 will be then, of course, popping out towards the point. At this time, option 1, option 2, and of course after this screen, rolling towards the basket, hence why he's a center. Could be a lob, could be a couple of different options, or at least a post up, but remember, you only have a few seconds to inbound the ball, so all of these screens have to be set extremely quickly. So in this next play, we're going to have 3 players set up along just under the free throw line extended. We're going to have the 4th player start a little bit higher up here. We're going to have this player set a screen on this player on the zone. We're going to have the player up here going to be setting a screen on the other top 2-3 player in the zone. This player is going to be popping, and then this player is going to be using that screen. One of these players has to be open. For example, if you get it into the corner, instead of getting it out too closer to the point. What you're going to then have is that inbounding player. He is going to be then popping out towards the point himself. Now this is a play that is attached onto the actual baseline inbounds. You're going to swing that ball around. Now while we're looking down here, we're going to be really assessing what is happening in the zone. Now again, this works well against a 2-3 as well as a 3-2 zone, but those two players are going to be setting a screen for those two baseline players. When that happens, that player who originally got that ball on the inbound, or at least that corner player, is going to be cutting baseline, and because of the back screen here and the back screen here, he should be open for that lob. Again, this is for more of an advanced. So basically how this is going to look is we're going to have a screen here from player 2. We're going to have a player 1 setting a screen on player 2 red. Player 4 is going to pop and player 5 is going to be cutting towards the baseline. At this time, one of those two players will be open. Either way, whether it gets to player 5 or to player 4, it doesn't necessarily matter because we're going to be looking to swing that ball anyways because player 3 is going to be running inbound. When that happens, we're going to be seeing the zone shift just like this. Now at this time, we're going to be having player 1 set a screen here. Player 4 is going to be basically sending that pass over to player 3, and player 2 is going to be setting a screen, back screen on player 5. At this time, player 5 blue is going to be cutting baseline, and we should be getting that lob pass to player 5 for that layup or that dunk. And I'm going to tell you right now, usually you will have players 5 and 4 playing a bit higher, mainly because when you make that swing, they're going to be shifting most likely over like this, which gives it even more room, generally speaking, to send that pass over to player 5. You can even combine the last two plays into the same thing. This is an absolutely amazing set that we see right here. Again, same idea with the double back screen, the lob pass to that baseline cutter. And of course, this does finish with a dunk or a layup really, but it could have been a dunk. So basically what we're going to be having is, again, that same idea where we have those players setting those screens, player from the middle of the key popping out, and the player at the point going towards that corner. At this time, when he gets that ball, he's going to still swing it around, and this inbounding player is going to be popping up towards the point. When that happens, we're going to be having those two players who initially set those screens, they're going to be setting back screens on those post players. And when that happens, we're going to have that baseline player cut and of course the alley-oop. So most likely what you will see with that team, or at least with your play if you are going to use this play, is you will have players 2 and 4, they'll be setting those screens, and player 5 is going to be cutting down. Of course, this could be a 3-point shot, just like the second play I showed you. However, now what we're going to be looking to do is have player 1 pop out, player 3 pop out, and then we're going to have that ball swing around. Meanwhile, player 4 is going to be cutting down towards the post, or at least rolling towards the post, and then we're going to have the defense most likely shift a bit higher because now the ball's on this side. When that's the case, we're going to be most likely being able to see player 2 set that screen on 3 and player 4 set that screen on player 5, so that player 5 blue, when he cuts towards the basket, we can have that pass to player 5 for that alley-oop. It's a fantastic play to run. In fact, if you're playing a 3-out 2-in offense against a zone defense, you could very easily run this same play outside of it being an inbound play as well. Now this next play is going to be actually very similar once again. However, we're going to have a wall set up with screens and one player on this side. He's going to be popping through those screens and he's going to be receiving that pass to the corner. This is actually a very similar play to my S plays that I run with my team. And after he gets that inbound pass, he's going to then have the swing pass over towards the player at, or at least close to the point. We're then going to see those two same players setting up essentially a wall screen right here. That inbounding player is going to be popping up towards the point just like the last couple of plays, and we're going to have that swing pass over. And then, again, very similar to my S plays, we're going to be setting up a wall. This is, again, switching what looks to be into either a 3-2 zone. Duke is really well known for switching between 2-3 and 3-2 zones. However, However, what we do see is he does start popping down once again. So when this happens, of course, he sends up a lob to this player, but there's a few different options here. So first option is, of course, when this player is cutting baseline, he could have taken a few dribbles over here, kicked it out for a 3-point shot. That's option number one. Next option here is that lower player sets a back screen on that middle defender. We're back into that 2-3 zone. And from here, we have that point player who sends up that alley-oop, and this is actually a very good play to run as a set-alone play too. So very similar to my S play. Player 2 can go between players 4 and 5, or he can go around. It doesn't necessarily matter. Generally speaking, against a zone, you might want to go over top because that gives you a little bit more room to play with. And then when he goes over top of this screen, he's going to then receive this ball. Player 1 is going to then cut over towards this side. We're going to be having players 5 and 4 go over to the opposite side. Now this could be a trap. Depends on the type of zone that they're playing against. And of course, when it comes to Duke, they do tend to run a 3-2 trap style in the corner, and then they dig back down into a 2-3 once the player or the ball gets back to the point. So when it's down in the corner, they generally trap that corner. Player 2 will then swing that ball around. Player 1 will swing over to player 3. And what we'll have when the player or the ball is swinging around, generally speaking, when you're going against the zone, if you can swing that ball around, you can get some open shots from the other side. It's a fantastic option to really run. However, while that is an option, this is going to be most likely shifting the zone so that it's basically defending like this, where now we can have player 4 set a back screen on player 5 red, and of course you can send up the alley-oop to player 5 for that layup or dunk. I hope that this video helps you and your team win more games. If it does, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time. Make sure to go check out my unbeatable basketball zone defense down in the description below.